What's going on, guys? JPA Trades here. We're going to be going over those Apple plays we took last week and a half or so. But before we get started, if you want, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Feel free to become a channel member too, just so you support the channel. But let's get into these Apple plays. So let's start out with the first one, which was the Apple puts we bought to end last Friday. So went ahead and bought those Apple puts for $2.11. 62 cents. So got our little nifty chart here. So if you look, a little smoochy right there on that trendline of pain. I've been tweeting this chart out pretty regularly about just kind of, hey, here's Apple in that downward trend. Every time it kisses that trend, it kept going lower and lower. We kept seeing those kisses the trend line, but whoops, grabbed my arrow there. Keep grabbing. Let me grab my text. There we go. Smooch. So there is our little smooch right there on that trend line. Saw that jump down, and these Apple puts just kept running all week. But more importantly, they fell down on basically the very first Monday. Was able to get that nice 50% trim right away. And then I think it might have been on Tuesday. Yep, the 23rd. We were able to get, that was actually Monday still get that 100%. So able to get that 100% right away. And then also last week, we kind of saw that Apple started releasing news all over the place. So I just want to kind of go back here. So scroll down all past our fun tweets just to kind of show you our timeline here of what we were looking at, just to kind of make it make sense when we go back and look at the chart here. So there's our 100% on Apple, and then we were holding it for more, and what happened was so that EV new cancellation, like I said, came out right in our rug support zone, which even went ahead and said more scripted than the WWE, and this just kind of gives a pretty good timeline of when it happened. Literally, they dropped it as it fell into that support zone. So there were, like always, guys, there's people out there with way more money than all of us put together and different interests in everything. So people are always watching the stocks. CEOs and companies don't want their stocks to collapse. So playing puts is always, I always think it's like if you're playing in the right type of stocks, you should never really think a company is going to implode to zero. But at the same time, just watch the technicals, watch what's happening there. Just kind of play your advantages where you can find them. So I also kind of mentioned here at the bottom, the downtrend's still intact, but news is positive. We'll likely be looking at other names to play. One thing to note is 180 tested again. I don't think we'll have another trick up their sleeve. And that was the case this past Friday, where if we go back to the chart here, it saw that 180 test again. Well, it actually saw it a few times, and they kept saving it. And then finally on Friday, and the wall came tumbling down, and it just fell right under, and it stopped. And it stopped almost exactly where we bought calls. And if you look here on the void, you're like, look, this looks like it could fall to oblivion. Why did you decide to buy calls here? And I'll tell you, but only if one person subscribes. Just kidding. We'll tell you. So I'm still working on like our Wick video for everybody, but I'm not gonna like put a paywall or something behind it, but if something's out there that's worth sharing, I'm gonna tell you about it. So weekly candles, always worth looking at, guys. So weekly view, what do we see here? Okay, here's a couple repeaters. Like I don't want to make some god awful disaster of a chart in here and have you guys look at it and be like, everything's a level. Well, everything kind of is, but when they repeat, it's always interesting. So 178, and if you notice, I didn't time the bottom perfectly on these calls. I had my meme ready. I'm like, I'm gonna get toasted down here. So I actually bought them at 11:41 a.m. Tomic's making fun of me down there. And if we go back to the 10-minute chart, like I bought here, right? 178, just back off those levels there, and it fell under. And it was getting a little nerve-wracking, but kind of there's a little bit of the interpreting the news and at the same time interpreting the stock of what's happening. So Apple kept releasing like, oh, we're getting rid of the car to do AI. We're letting all this news out because they got guys way smarter than me, way smarter than everybody looking at their share price saying, hey, make sure this thing doesn't fall under the floorboards on us. What can we do here? And they're there trying to make some things happen. So luckily, bought that previous weekly wick, and it worked out great because hey, I think something's up. I didn't want to be in more puts here. So news is positive. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like the news is good. If there's a reason to buy it, I'll buy it. And just same thing. Back to that weekly view. Like everything matters. Like daily matters, weekly matters, monthly matters. But the longer the time frame, the more it matters, and more things occur. Like same thing. Like right here, 179.99. Where is it at? I lost it. Bling. 177.78. So literally 20 cents apart, as opposed to like pretty big differences everywhere else. And same thing here, 177.94, but just not the same like a wick. I just kind of like looking at wicks. I'm not sure. It's been working for me, so I'm just gonna stick to what's working. So that's kind of where I said, okay, I'm gonna take a stab, try to grab this dip. If it works out, big here. If not, they'll laugh at me a little bit. But luckily, it worked out really, really good for us. I saw so many great comments from you guys, so I'll just scroll down just to see. Like, we got literally all the way to in the money right away. Like, Madhu, Matt Malt, Dreamer, all doing great stuff. Like, I missed the screenshot for the 85%, but got the in the money screenshot. That's what matters. So, racked up great. Was able to lock in some profits, and now I'm sure you'll care what's going to happen next week. And also, sorry if I'm monologuing here, just kind of going through it. So basically, guys, this is still the same chart we're looking at. It's a little messy here for this rug support. So we can just go ahead. Like, yeah, that wick's gonna matter. We can probably get rid of this one. No, not all of them. Get rid of that, and then just invert this down, just for a little bit more clarity of what we're looking at here. Like, and let's just make this as simple as we can. Like, so these are basically where the weekly closes were, but now it's a little bit lower. That's just where someone else, same thing, bought that wick. So here's our new rug support, because we need to retake whatever that earnings gap down was. It needs to get back over to start moving. Keep our trend line, just drag it to the end there. Our little arrows for all the smoochies, put them back in. I'll make the pretty version of this and put it on Twitter later. But the void's still down there. It can still get ugly, but the news is positive. And like same thing. This is getting real tight here. So March 7th, conclusion date of this wedge down. Could get way uglier. Could get way better. Hoping on way better. We see that they're letting the news out, right? They're talking about AI. Everybody loves AI now. So say AI 100 times and maybe you'll save your share price. And that's what we're hoping for the rest of these calls. But ideally, here's what we want to have happen. Let's get a little blink. We'll be realistic. Blink, blink, blink. Blam. Something like that. Not going to go to 190. But it could just go. We want to get that nice and tight and blast all the way through. If we blast through sooner, that's awesome. Home run out of the park. So with that, sorry for rambling, guys. Hope this video helps you out, and let's crush it this week.